A woman can love you and still not respect you. Let that settle for a second. She can sleep with you, commit to you, build a future with you, and yet deep down never truly see you as the man to follow. That's the part men are almost never warned about. Most men assume respect naturally grows with time, effort, and loyalty. It doesn't. Respect is a hierarchy, and women reveal it through behavior, not promises or words. There are 6 clear behaviors women only show to men they genuinely respect. They don't bargain over them, they don't pretend them, and they don't give them out of kindness. If you've ever felt her energy change, like your words don't land the way they used to, this isn't about her mood. It's about recognizing the 6 signals that show you exactly where you stand before it's too late. Attraction is easy, it's emotional, it's reactive. Respect is rare, and it's earned on a completely different plane. A woman can sleep with you, she can love you, she can stay with you for years and still not respect you. That's the truth most men resist because they confuse presence with position. Attraction is how she feels about you. Respect is how she ranks you. When attraction is high but respect is low, you don't become her partner. You become her emotional safety net. The man she leans on, vents to, opens up to, but doesn't follow. You exist to absorb her feelings, not to set direction. That's where men get trapped. They believe consistency, patience, and understanding will eventually earn authority. It won't. It earns comfort. Without respect, you're not leading the relationship. You're reacting inside it. You adapt, you explain, you accommodate. And slowly, without a single blow-up, your position erodes. Here's the truth most men learn too late. A woman doesn't follow the man she likes. She follows the man she respects. Everything that comes next flows from that single rule. Number 1, she listens, and she actually adjusts. Most women are excellent talkers. They can articulate emotions, explain feelings, and unpack experiences endlessly. But listening, real listening, is selective. Here's the distinction most men miss. A woman can hear you without taking you seriously. She can nod, agree, even apologize, and change nothing. That's not confusion. That's your words landing without weight. When a woman truly respects you, something subtle but powerful shifts. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't rush to defend herself. She doesn't twist your point into a debate. She becomes quiet, not distant, but focused. Because in her mind, what you're saying isn't noise, it's direction. You raise an issue once and it sticks. You set a boundary and she adjusts without reminders. You correct a behavior and there's no pushback, no excuses, no emotional gymnastics. Why? Because respect changes how her mind categorizes your voice. You move from the emotional input box into the authority box. Your words stop sounding like opinions and start functioning as reference points. Now look at the opposite. If you have to repeat yourself, if every concern turns into a long discussion, if she agrees in the moment but nothing ever changes, you're not leading. You're background noise. And no woman respects background noise. This is where many good men lose their balance. They assume patience will eventually become authority, so they soften their tone, they over-explain, they try to sound more empathetic, more careful, more accommodating. All that does is teach her that your words don't require action. A woman doesn't adjust for a man she sees as equal. She adjusts for a man she sees as above the emotional turbulence, someone whose perspective actually matters. And notice this. When respect is real, adjustment doesn't come with attitude. There's no sighing, no eye-rolling, no passive resistance. She doesn't feel diminished by aligning with you. She feels grounded, because ignoring you would feel like being out of sync with something solid. Here's the line every man needs to sit with. No woman respects a man she can ignore. If your words don't move her behavior, your position is already compromised. Number 2, she watches her mouth around you. If you want to know how a woman truly sees you, don't start with what she does. Start with how she speaks. Language is never random. It's a ranking system. Sarcasm, slick remarks, jokes at your expense, backhanded comments disguised as just teasing. That's not personality, it's not humor, and it's not comfort. It's power testing. When a woman doesn't respect a man, she talks to him the way she talks to people she feels above. She pokes, she pushes, she sees what she can get away with, not deliberately, but instinctively. Every sarcastic jab carries a silent question. How much can I lower you without consequence? Now watch what changes when respect is present. That edge disappears. Not because she's afraid of you, but because her nervous system doesn't register you as someone she can casually run over. The filter turns on automatically. She chooses her words. She doesn't mock you in public. She doesn't take small verbal shots to make herself feel bigger. And here's what men often misunderstand. She's not walking on eggshells. She's calibrating. Women don't speak carelessly to men they can't afford to disrespect. Just like you don't joke loosely with someone whose authority you recognize. She doesn't casually diminish a man she sees as solid. Look at the patterns. Does she talk to you like one of her girlfriends? Does she tease you the same way she teases men she doesn't take seriously? Does she correct you publicly, challenge you sarcastically, or laugh at you instead of with you? Those aren't quirks, they're signals. A woman who respects you protects your position, especially with her words. She understands, even if she can't explain it, that how she speaks to you shapes how she feels about you. Disrespect doesn't begin with betrayal. It begins with tone. And once she's comfortable lowering you verbally, the internal hierarchy is already set. That's why men who tolerate disrespectful language slowly lose authority. Every ignored comment teaches her your boundaries are flexible. Every forced laugh trains her nervous system to rank you lower. Here's the truth most men avoid. How she speaks to you is how she ranks you. If there's no filter, it's because respect has already slipped or never existed at all. Number 3, she changes her behavior without the attitude. There's a distinction most men miss early on, and by the time they notice it, the damage is done. It's the difference between being heard and being adjusted for. A woman can listen to your concern and still disrespect you. You know the moment. You raise something calmly and clearly, and she responds with, "That's just how I am. You're too sensitive. Everyone does that." That's not honesty, that's defense. When a woman doesn't respect a man, every request feels like an attack on who she is. She has to protect herself. She has to explain. She has to justify. And suddenly, a simple boundary turns into a negotiation. But when respect is real, the response looks completely different. She doesn't argue. She doesn't dramatize it. She doesn't turn it into a referendum on her character. She adjusts quietly, not because she's afraid of losing you, but because being out of alignment with you feels wrong. In her internal world, your standards matter. Your expectations carry weight. Correction doesn't trigger her ego. It triggers calibration. This is what most men get wrong about leadership in relationships. Leadership doesn't require force, it requires position. When a woman truly sees you as a leader, adjusting her behavior doesn't feel like submission. It feels like order, like settling into something stable. That's why there's no attitude attached to it. No size, no passive-aggressive compliance, no emotional bill to pay later. She doesn't need convincing. She doesn't need reminders. She doesn't need long explanations about why it matters to you. She simply does better. Now contrast that with the man who is constantly managing her reactions, who walks on eggshells to avoid conflict, who avoids bringing things up because every conversation turns into an argument. That man isn't leading. He's negotiating from underneath. And here's the hard truth most men need to hear. If every correction becomes a fight, you're not leading. A woman who respects you doesn't challenge your standards. She aligns with them because respect isn't loud. It's efficient. You know the moment. You raise something calmly and clearly, and she responds with, "That's just how I am. You're too sensitive." Everyone does that. That's not honesty, that's defense. When a woman doesn't respect a man, every request feels like an attack on who she is. She has to protect herself. She has to explain. She has to justify. And suddenly, a simple boundary turns into a negotiation. But when respect is real, the response looks completely different. She doesn't argue. She doesn't dramatize it. She doesn't turn it into a referendum on her character. She adjusts quietly, not because she's afraid of losing you, but because being out of alignment with you feels wrong. In her internal world, your standards matter. Your expectations carry weight. Correction doesn't trigger her ego. it triggers calibration. Number 4, she speaks about you with pride when you're not there. Respect shows itself most clearly in your absence, not when you're sitting across from her, not when you're doing things for her, but when your name comes up and you're not in the room to hear it. This is where many men get blindsided. A woman can be affectionate in private and still quietly reduce you in public. She might avoid mentioning you. She might downplay what you do. She might shrug when someone asks about you. Or worse, justify being with you as if she needs to explain her decision. That's not shyness. That's hesitation. When a woman respects a man, she doesn't hide him. She doesn't minimize him. She doesn't separate her identity from his presence. Her tone changes when she talks about you. There's weight behind it. She quotes you. She defends you. She references your perspective even when you're not around. And here's why this matters psychologically. Women are highly aware of social positioning. Publicly attaching themselves to a man is a statement. It signals value, direction, and status. So they're selective. They don't put their name next to someone who lowers their perceived position. When she speaks about you with pride, it means she sees you as an extension of her standards. You're not just the man she's with, you're the man she measures others against. Now flip it. If she avoids talking about you, if she keeps the relationship vague, if she downplays your role in her life, that's not privacy, that's distance. It means, on some level, she hasn't fully aligned herself with you. And alignment doesn't exist without respect. That's why men who lack respect feel invisible outside the relationship. They exist in a private bubble, but not in her larger world. She keeps options open. She keeps narratives flexible. A woman who respects you doesn't do that. She stands on the choice she made. Here's the line men need to stop ignoring. If she hides you, she doesn't respect you. Respect makes a woman proud to be associated with you, not because of what you provide, but because of who you are. Number 5, she seeks your input before making major decisions. There's a quiet but decisive shift that happens when a woman truly respects a man. She stops acting first and starts checking in. Attraction makes her want your attention. Respect makes her want your direction. When a woman sees you as a man with sound judgment, she naturally brings you into her decision-making process. Not because she needs permission, but because your perspective carries authority in her mind. She asks what you think before reacting emotionally. She pauses before committing to something big. She wants to know how you see the situation. That's not dependence, that's recognition. This is where many men get confused and accidentally talk themselves out of their position. They say things like, just do whatever makes you happy, thinking it sounds supportive. What it actually does is remove them from the equation. A woman doesn't seek input from a man she sees as optional. When she respects you, your opinion becomes a stabilizer. It grounds her. She feels safer making decisions when she's aligned with your judgment. That's influence, not control. Now look at the opposite pattern. She makes major moves without mentioning them. She tells you after the fact. She treats your reaction like an inconvenience instead of a consideration. That dynamic tells you everything. You're not part of her internal compass. You're just someone who needs to be informed. And that's a dangerous downgrade. Many men tolerate this because they don't want to appear insecure or controlling. But leadership isn't about force. It's about being included before the decision is made. A woman who respects you doesn't fear your perspective. She values it. She knows you see angles she might miss when emotions are high. And here's the distinction every man needs to understand. Being included is respect. Being informed is not. If she only tells you once everything is already in motion, your role has already been reduced. Respect invites your voice into the process, not as a courtesy, but as a necessity. Number 6, she stops the drama and starts bringing you peace. Drama isn't random. It's not just how women are, and it's not a sign of passion. Drama is a power test. When a woman doesn't respect a man, she creates emotional friction to see how grounded he really is. She pulls away to provoke a reaction. She starts arguments over nothing. She creates tension to feel the upper hand, not maliciously, but instinctively. Chaos gives her control when stability doesn't. But when a woman encounters a man she genuinely respects, something fundamental shifts. She calms down, not because she's bored, not because she's losing interest, but because her nervous system no longer feels the need to challenge him. A man who is internally solid doesn't react emotionally to tests. He doesn't chase. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't fight for dominance. And because he can't be shaken, there's nothing to gain from creating turbulence. That's when peace appears. She stops manufacturing problems. She stops pushing buttons. She stops trying to win. Instead, she starts contributing. She becomes softer, not weaker, cooperative, not submissive. She brings stability into your life because she senses you are already stable without her. This is the moment many men misread. They think she's less dramatic, maybe less interested. No, she's losing the need to test. A woman only fights for control when she doesn't trust the man beside her to hold it. Once she respects you, she relaxes into alignment. She doesn't want to compete with you. She wants to complement you. That's the key difference. She no longer wants to challenge you. She wants to support you. Here's the truth most men never connect. Peace isn't what a woman gives the man she's merely comfortable with. Peace is what she gives the man she can't shake. If your presence quiets her chaos instead of feeding it, respect has already taken root. And when a woman brings you peace, it's because she stopped trying to take power from you and started trusting you with it. What all 6 of these behaviors share isn't technique. They're not tricks. They're not things you demand. They're responses. Each one is a reaction to the same underlying reality: position. When a woman truly respects a man, she naturally aligns with him. She listens because his words carry weight. She watches her tone because his position is solid. She adjusts without attitude because his standards feel legitimate. She speaks about him with pride because being connected to him elevates her. She seeks his input because his judgment is trusted. She brings peace because there's no need to fight for control. None of this comes from asking for it. All of it comes from who you are being. That's the part most men try to skip. They want the behaviors without the foundation, the alignment without the leadership, the obedience without the authority. And when they don't get it, they assume something is wrong with women. It isn't. Women don't withhold respect to punish men. They respond to what they perceive. And perception is shaped by consistency, boundaries, self-command, and direction, not by overgiving or emotional labor. When respect is present, power struggles disappear. She stops negotiating hierarchy. She stops testing limits. She settles into alignment because it feels right, not because she's forced. Here's the shift every man must make. You don't ask for respect. You don't negotiate for it. You become the kind of man it naturally attaches to. These 6 behaviors aren't goals. They're evidence. And if they're missing, the answer isn't to chase harder. It's to look honestly at the position you're holding. If there's one truth you should walk away with, it's this: women don't treat good men badly. They just don't follow men they don't respect. Most men never grasp that distinction. They assume effort equals authority, that loyalty automatically earns leadership. And when it doesn't, they learn the wrong lesson. They try harder, give more, explain deeper. That's how men slowly erase their own position. If you didn't see yourself in these 6 behaviors, don't panic and don't blame her. A woman doesn't wake up one day and decide to downgrade a man. She responds to the role he's been holding all along. Respect doesn't come from chasing approval. It doesn't come from emotional availability without backbone. And it never comes from bargaining away your standards just to keep the peace. A respected man doesn't beg to be heard. He isn't afraid of disagreement. And he doesn't confuse being chosen with being followed. When you stop overgiving, stop explaining, stop reacting, something shifts. Not because you're trying to control her, but because you're finally controlling yourself. That's when respect has space to grow. So if this hit close to home, don't numb it. Use it. Subscribe if you're done being the man women get comfortable lowering. Comment if you've ever realized too late that your position slipped quietly. And share this with a man who's still being chosen, but never truly followed. Because the moment a woman genuinely respects you, she can't unsee it, and neither can you.